Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Hello, and thank you for joining us for this episode of Her Version. The Her Version platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. Today, I'm speaking with an amazing woman named Dana. Dana is a best-selling author of the book titled Finding a Better Way, available on Amazon in all countries. Is it available in all countries or counties?
Countries.
Great. Nice. I love that. That's okay. She is the mother of 3 young children, works part-time at a job she loves, and is happily married to a man that she met in Cuba. Excited to hear about that. While she was on a vacation, she has spent the last 2 years working on herself and building a life she loves, building her dream home, driving her dream SUV, following her passion, and raising her amazing kids. She works on falling in love with her life every single day. Welcome, lady. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm wonderful. How are you?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on, hanging out, spending some time with me, sharing your journey. I remember the first time I spoke to you and kind of just got a glimpse of your story. I was like, this is so cool. This is like what they hear about on the movies. So it's kind of cool to see it in real life and hear a little bit about your journey and the things that you've done in your life and the challenges that I'm sure have come from all of that, and kind of dive in. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So I want to start out just with, the question that I love to ask all of my guests is, what's the biggest challenge? What's the biggest challenge that you've had in your life? And what did you learn from that challenge?
The biggest challenge I have was learning who I was and where I wanted to be in life. So I had met my husband on vacation 10 years ago, and we got married. I sponsored him to come to Canada, and it's been a roller coaster ever since. So every winter he goes through really bad culture shock and goes through a low of depression. And about 2.5 years ago, we were in a really bad spot. So we were ready for a divorce, splitting our kids up. It was pretty bad. I was going through a really bad depression. I was on anxiety medication just to cope with my life. And I ended up finding a better way. So I was online and I found a course Bob Proctor was teaching, and I made my husband attend. So we both ended up going to this very short webinar. It was The Science to Getting Rich from Bob Proctor, and we both jumped head first. So at that point, we were learning how to live together, how to parent together, because like you said, we have 3 very small children. And honestly, I didn't know parenting was going to be this hard. So
thank you for the honesty in that. Thank you for the honesty in that. There's when you see social media and all the cute pictures, it's kind of like a puppy. You're like, yep. I want one. Yeah. Yep. How old are your kids?
4, 6, and 8. And they're all very, very different. So, and my oldest one is now being tested for ADHD because he's very, very hyper. So it's been challenging, like, truthfully. It's not easy. So, and I thought it was going to be easier, but it's not. And then having a husband. So me and my husband parent extremely different. So us learning that balance with each other and with our children, and then me having a dream home. So the first home that we purchased about 5 years ago, about 6 months after we moved in, he told me he hated it. So it was just like,
what?
Yeah. He said, I hate this house. And I said, then why did you say yes to it? And then he said, well, because I just wanted to get this over with, because it was right at the beginning when our housing market went crazy and all of the bidding wars started. So we actually bid on probably about 10 houses. And the house that we did get was the one that I was absolutely in love with. And we ended up bidding 10,000 under and we got it. So for me, it was fate. For him, he was like, whatever, let's just do this. So after that, our lives took a very bad turn. So
yeah. So I want to talk about, so you guys met when? What year?
2012, April of 2012.
So you're on vacation. You went with family or friends?
Family. I was with my mom, my dad, and my mom's brother and sister.
And
so I ended up, I ended up bunking with my aunt, and I run into this guy, and me and my aunt had a joke where it was, oh, you're going to find your Rico Suave on this trip. And I was like, no, right? Like I wasn't looking for anything. I just needed a vacation from my life and my work. So I ended up meeting him. We left on a Saturday. I met him on the Monday. And we were inseparable for the rest of the trip. And like at that point, I knew he was an entertainment staff. I was sunbathing. I had the towel over my head. And that's when I caught his attention. Because he's like, what is this girl doing, right? I didn't want to get heat stroke or sunstroke, but I wanted the tan.
Yeah.
He ended up coming up to me and asking me if I had a boyfriend. And I said no. And then after that, he took his shirt off and I ran up to him and I said, can I get a picture with you? And the rest is history.
Are you serious? How old were you and how old was he?
I was 27 and he was 24. When we got married, I was 28. He was 25.
No kidding. Yeah. How did you do the marriage? Was that there or did you?
Yeah. We got married there in a lawyer's office. So the way their system, for it to be legal in Canada, we had to do 2 days before we had to do signatures. And then 2 days after that happened, we actually got married in the lawyer's office. And then they had to send the paperwork to Havana. And that all the legalization stuff happened. And then it was sent back to the lawyer's office where he then picked it up. And then I got the marriage certificate my next trip.
Wow.
And then I had already done the immigration package. All I was waiting for was that one paper. And then as soon as I got that paper, I sent everything away.
So when you were there, I mean, you only stayed for what, 2 weeks or something? Like a week?
No, we fell in love in 4 days.
Wait, you fell in love in 4 days, but didn't you have to go home eventually?
Yeah. I was there for a week. So we spent 4 days together. And the last day I gave him all of my information and he gave me his address. And I looked at it and I thought, oh, this is fake. I'm never going to see him again. So I went home, went back to my life. And about 10 days later, he emailed me from this random email account giving me his phone number. And then it took me 3 days to figure out how to call him. I had to call my phone company and have them unlock everything. And I finally called him. And then that's how we ended up emailing. And I would call him every couple of days because it's really expensive. And that's how we got to know each other.
Wow. And then he eventually proposed, like through email? Or how did he propose?
No. So what happened was I ended up going back 2 months later for my birthday. I was like, I want to know if this is love or if this is lust. So I booked the trip with one of my friends And I went, and it was true love. So at that trip, we became exclusive. And then I would come home, and I would literally book. I would come home, wash my clothes, repack my suitcase, and start looking for trips.
Wow.
So that's what I did on my spare time. I would look for the next trip. So I ended up finding a cheap trip to go to Keokoko. And I said to him, is there any way that you can meet me there? And he said, yes, I'll meet you there. So I think that was September. That was September long weekend. I went for 4 days, and I met him in Keokoko. And that's when he proposed to me. So after that, I went September, October, November, December, and then January, we ended up getting married. But
wow. So family, your family and friends, were they on board, or were they hesitant or scared, or what was that all about?
My parents had met him the first week that we met. So they had already built a comfort zone with him. The rest of my friends and family were actually pretty okay. It was actually my coworkers that were the most negative. So then I stopped having lunch with my coworkers because I just couldn't handle the negativity. So I ended up just becoming a loner, and my mom was very on board. She's so supportive. I love her so much. My dad, he really didn't care. He was like, whatever. So, and I made my husband call my dad and ask for my hand. So I love it. And he did. And my dad was like, you know what you're getting yourself into? So it was traditional, and it was romantic in my eyes, and it happened.
I love it. Where did you guys get married at?
We ended up getting married in Kaiberian, which is 2 towns from his town.
Did you have a traditional, or was it just you went to the office and?
We did it tradition. Yeah, I had 2 dresses. I had my long, nice one for the lawyer's office where we actually got married. And then we had the ceremony at his house where they did a big pig roast. So there was 14 of my friends and family that went with us. And there was about 75 people on his side. And it was just absolutely beautiful. His mom hired a person to come and decorate. They got 2 professional cakes done in my favorite color. It was absolutely gorgeous. It's the best wedding I've ever been to.
That is so cool. Mm-hmm. Wow. So when did it start settling in as far as you're married, you're good, honeymoon stage, everything's great? When did the the differences in culture start to kind of bubble up?
Well, we were doing immigration. So I was approved to be a sponsor in February of 2013. And then his file ended up getting, it worked out in the end, to be honest. So his file ended up getting stopped in Havana because his medical came back as he had TB, which was just garbage. They just wanted extra money from us. So they ended up holding it for about 3 months. And then I called the MP in Brampton, because that's where I was living. And they called Havana, and Havana pushed it through, set him up with a new medical. We ended up getting that one for free. And our file was pushed to the next section right after that. So that was June 2013. So right after, I think it was the end of June, my cousin's husband died. He was in a car accident and he died. And I called my husband and I told him, and I said, you know what, I don't want to wait to start our lives anymore. So I ended up asking my boss for a 10-week leave of absence, and they denied me. So I quit. I sold all of my stuff except my house and my bedroom set, my car and my bedroom set. I put all my bills on auto pay. My mom paid the one bill but I couldn't do it. And I went for 3 months, and I stayed with him and his family, and they bought me an air conditioner and redid the room for me. And they got it was just so beautiful. So I ended up living with him for about 3 months, and he came home with me in October. So
Wow.
we started our actual honeymoon 7 months after we got married.
Wow. Very,
Yeah.
very cool. And then you waited a little while to start having kids.
No, I was pregnant 3 weeks after he was in Canada.
Oh, you met in 2012. I was thinking you got married in 2012. So you met, but then all of that stuff. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So right away you got pregnant.
We weren't ready for it. We were actually still living with my parents. We had moved out probably about a month after he'd arrived in Canada, and I was already pregnant. And I had no job. He had been working. His aunt set him up with a job through a friend of hers. So he was working. I wasn't. So when I got a job, of course, I had to hide the pregnancy because people don't want to hire pregnant people because then they know they're going to be off. So I ended up waiting for my 3 months, and then I told my bosses, and they were really, really unhappy. So anyways, I did my mat leave. I had my baby. I went back to work. A month later, they had let me go. And I was pregnant with my second kid at that time.
Wow. No kidding.
Yeah.
And you're on your own, right? You and him.
Yeah, we moved out. We were renting where we were renting? We were renting a 3-bedroom house that was very close to my parents because we tried to stay close to family. And I was, again, like looking for a new job.
Crazy. So now they're 4, 6, and 8.
Yep.
Yes. What's the difference in I know you guys are working on this, and I so love that we're hearing about the struggles during the struggles, because I think that's one of the biggest issues that we have as a culture, in the female, probably humans just in general, but in the female community is, talking about it after it's already happened. It's like, yeah, it was bad, but the idea of being able to speak about it while it's happening in order to let other women know, like, hey, listen, yeah, same, I'm also going through this. We're also working through this. I just think it's so, so important. So I know that this is a continuous evolving door, but what were the biggest differences in parenting?
Oh boy. So he grew up in a culture where the grandparents raised the kids and the parents work. So he was raised by his grandparents and his parents worked. And then when he moved here, he kind of expected my parents to help out more, which when we had one kid, they were super helpful. They helped us every day with our son. And then we had the second one and the dynamic changed. So, and now we have 3 now. Like my mother is a super trooper. She'll take all of them for a couple of hours, but that's basically all she can handle. So that's the biggest one. And like where he's a very affectionate man and he's always like hugging and kissing them, and where I'm more not like that. Like I'm more, okay, well, what do you need? Let me give you what you need. Whereas he's the emotional supporter and I'm the everything else.
How does that feel for you?
I'm really glad that they're growing up with a father who's very affectionate, because a lot of the people that I know, it's the other way around. The mother is the affectionate one and the father is not. But I guess I'm not like that. So I'm really happy that they get it from him, because I honestly try. But it's just not who I am. It's like, okay, well, what do you need? Let me give you what you need. I'll go do the laundry. Like I take care of everything in the house. I make sure they have everything they need. And my husband's the one that does the hugs and kisses and like plays with them on the floor. I will do like puzzles and schooling and stuff with them, but he does the other stuff. The discipline stuff is one of our biggest problems. So I will have a very structured routine with them. And my husband comes home and he kind of breaks the routine. But honestly, if we didn't have kids, me and my husband would never fight. Like, we have an amazing marriage, amazing relationship with each other. It's mostly the kids. Like, we differ with the kids. Like, he is more free. He allows them to express themselves, even if they're throwing balls around in the house and like being dangerous. Whereas I'm like, no, you can't do that inside. You have to do that outside. So it's just silly things like that. But when you're in the moment, like, you feel, oh my gosh, like, we're so different. But when you're not in the moment, it's like, wow, that's so dumb.
Totally. I totally agree with that. It's so insane. Sometimes I look back, I'm like,
Yep.
I don't even know what we were arguing about.
Yeah.
I remember it was really important, but I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
What was one of the biggest things? So, you first of all, props to you for looking for help. So many times people start running into issues with, whether it's parenting or money or relationships or sex, and they just want to just throw their hands up and just walk away. There's no, seeking out therapy or counseling or a role model or a program or a book. So good for you for like being like, hey, I really love you. Like, let's see if I can find something to help us. So you mentioned Bob Proctor. Is that right?
Yep.
So what's been like some of the biggest things, some of the biggest learnings?
So before we found Bob Proctor, we had actually done marriage counseling several times. Wow. I was doing personal counseling on my own, and he had also done some counseling on his own to deal with the culture shock. So there is no lack of love on either one of our parts. Like, we're 100% all in. And like, he's always, I respect him so much because he's always like, you know what, we're having a problem in this area. Let's move forward. How can we fix this? How can we make it better? So he was always on board with me. And I think that's what makes things so easy for us to live this chaotic life together. Because at the end of the day, like, when we lie in bed together, it's like, I love you so much. And I wouldn't want to do this roller coaster with anybody else. But the biggest thing that we learned was, so with the house problem, Bob helped us solve that. We both sat at the table and we're like, okay, what do you want in a house? So he said we needed 4 bedrooms because our kids were always fighting and they weren't sleeping properly because they were playing all night. We only had 1 bathroom. So we're like, we want more bathrooms because having 5 people in 1 bathroom, it's okay when they're all babies, but as they get older, it's harder. I wanted 2-car garages. Just silly little things like that. He wanted to be close to the beach because he feels more at home in Canada when he's close to the beach. So we did it. We wrote a list, all of the must-haves, and we started searching. And to be honest, I think we looked for 3 months. We must have looked at least 30 houses. And we finally found this one that we're living in. And we ended up, because we got our house built, like, we waited 2 years for this house to be built. We saw a house that was already built in the first phase, and we both fell in love with it. But it was at the max of our budget. Like, we would have been house poor with that house. So the silliest thing happened. We were on our way home and I turned right instead of left. And we ended up finding the builder. So I immediately pulled in and I was like, this is fate. Okay. So we walk in, we found the house on the board that we had just toured. And we looked at the lady and we're like, how much does that one cost? So she told us the price and we're like, oh my goodness, that's well below our budget. We could afford this house and live nicely, like live the life that we want to live. So I said, okay, let's do it. And he's like, no, we have to sell our house first. I'm riskier than he is. So we ended up going home. I had a for sale sign on our yard 3 days later. Our house sold in 3 weeks for over asking. We were at the builder the next day and we bought the house. We got the lot that we wanted. Everything was good. And the builder, so here's another thing of thoughts become things. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So we wanted this house so bad, but we didn't have the money for it. So we went to the lady, the sales lady, and I said, look, we're going to buy this house, but we have no money. And she was like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, I'm not leaving this place without a house. She literally phoned the owner and was like, okay, I have a client here. They've been in a couple times. They've sold their house for this house. They don't have the money right now. They'll pay us in full when their house closes. So they said, okay, do you have $1,000? And I said, yes, we can do that. So I actually took the $1,000 off of my line of credit so that we could pay the builder. So we paid the builder $1,000 instead of the $10,000 they required. And then in 60 days when our house closed, we brought them the rest of the money. So that it was fate. Like everything lines up when you truly want something.
Wow. Why did it take so long to build?
COVID. So we were actually supposed to move in last October, but COVID pushed our house. We moved in June. So it got pushed 8 months.
Wow. So you were living with parents or an apartment?
We were renting.
Okay.
My dad didn't like the idea of us living in their basement for that amount of time. There's 5 of us and it was only like a small basement. So I said, okay, fine. So I ended up finding a rental unit 6 days before our house closed. So that was a complete blessing. And we rented and she was amazing. Like the landlord lady was amazing. Every time she would call me and be like, okay, because we were supposed to be out October. And I said, look, we can't leave. The house isn't ready. And she says, okay. And I said, I'll just keep sending you money. I'll send you money every month until the house is built. And she said, okay, no problem. And the builder finally called me. So my book got released in March. So March 15th, my book launched. And on the 16th, I became a bestseller. And on the 17th, the builder called us and said, your house is going to be ready end of May. And I was like, this is the greatest week of my life. So I had so many tears that week. It was so emotional. So I gave the 60-day notice to my landlord. And then probably what happened was the construction people ended up going on strike. So my house wasn't going to be finished when they said it was going to be finished. And I said to her, I said, look, I said, we'll move into the garage if we have to. We have nowhere to go. So she said, give me a couple of hours. Let me see what I can do. I said, okay, fine. So she called the city where we live. She got approval because our house wasn't finished. We had no carpet upstairs. And technically, by builder standards, they're not allowed closing on a house if the flooring isn't in. Oh, wow. So the town approved us only. We were the first ones to move in the whole subdivision.
Oh my gosh.
So we moved in June 1st as planned. Just everything has been so incredible. Our carpet was installed, I think 10 days later because they were forced to go back to work. And we were the first one to get the carpet because we'd moved in. So it was really incredible.
Wow. Absolutely crazy. You know what I really like about this story is your ability to be able to communicate what you need. That's one of the biggest issues, I think, is we're expecting sometimes people to like read our mind or for like, you know, the thoughts become things. So then they just think it and then they never.
She's frozen. She'll come back though.
Things are actually progressing for you because of the words that you're saying. You're actually speaking what you need. You're talking about what you need and what you want. And because of that, they are popping up in your life. That's an amazing example to so many people who don't use their voice.
It is true. So last January, I ended up taking Bob Proctor's Thinking into Results, and it completely changed mine and my husband's life. So we actually, we still study it to this day. Like, we go for a goal and we achieve it. We're goal achievers now.
Oh, so I love that.
Anytime contrast comes into our lives, we're always like, okay, so what do we need to do to make this better? So I have in my book, I have my secrets of what I do, which most people they're not willing to do. I listen to music, I get into the feeling of what I want, and I write lines like I do. So my book was, I am so happy and grateful now that I'm a New York Times bestseller. I wrote that every single day until my publisher called me and told me that I made it on the best-selling list.
Wow.
So those are just the things. Like, when we were going for our mortgage, I can't tell you how many issues we had getting the mortgage because we did the Dave Ramsey plan. We worked our butts off. We paid off all of our debt, and the mortgage company didn't like that.
Yeah.
So the banks wouldn't actually give us a mortgage. Wow. So I wrote every single day. I did my lines. I am so happy and grateful now that we have a mortgage to cover everything. And it was at like a specific rate and paying no more than this much.
Yeah.
So I built that belief. And then finally my mortgage broker called me and she's like, okay, we've got 2 private lenders that are willing to fund you everything. So I said, all right, send me the papers. So that's what we did. We got private lenders, and like before, I'd never known about private lenders.
Yeah.
But I knew in my heart everything was going to work out because I truly wanted this house. So did my husband. Yeah. I actually found a note yesterday in my line book, because last night I started doing lines again because I'm going for a new goal now. So I start my process all over again. And I found the note. I wrote a note to the universe saying, me and my kids and my husband deserve this house. So thank you so much for providing us everything we needed to move into the house on June 1st. And everything after that just fell into place. Like, it took, I think we had, my mortgage broker was a rock star. She went from one bank to the next, to the next, to the next. She even tried doing half bank, half private. Like, she worked for me, and I'm so, so grateful. And then finally she's like, look, the best way to get you in this house, the best monthly rate is, this is your option. And I said, okay, let's do it. And it was a week before we closed. So by the time our house closed, that's when all the money was being worked out. And I was on this side going, okay, everything's going to work out. It's all going to work out. I believe it. And my husband would just go to work. Like, he was so stressed out. I'm like, nope, you just have to see us in the house. Just see us in the house. And that's all you need to do. So
that's crazy. Very, very cool. Wow. What's a private lender, by the way, for those who don't know?
Private lenders are literally people giving you their money. It is. How
do you find it?
My mortgage broker. She had access to over 240 lenders, and one of them, actually 2. So we have 2 private lends. It's, I don't even know how to explain it. It costs more money. So you have a lender's fee and it's a little bit of a higher interest. But when the banks say no, they say yes. So it's a really good way for people to make a lot of money in a short period of time.
Wow. So people just with extra money in the bank, instead of it just sitting there, they'll offer to lend it to you, but then charge you a little more interest than what a bank would charge you.
Yeah.
And then you just pay them.
Exactly. Instead of 3.6%, I pay 5.99, and I just pay the private lender instead of the bank.
Wow.
It's still a secured loan, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and they're a little more strict. Like, we're not allowed doing renovations, which is fine because it's a brand new house. You're not allowed doing renovations for the first 2 years anyways because of the builder warranties. So it all worked out.
Got it. Very
Yeah.
cool. Plus, you're doing so much with all these kids. We don't have time for renovations right now.
I know, right? Yeah. I think all we've done is we've done curtains, we painted the basement floor, and we put up this really cool glass stuff so that people can't see into our house. My daughter loves it. It makes rainbows on the floor with the sun. It's so pretty.
Oh, I love that. Very cool. What's been the number one lesson you've learned about life?
Oh my goodness. Always seek for more information. Keep educating yourself. It doesn't matter what you're learning, just always learn. Like, every day I read something. Every day I study something from a book. I'll go online and search something that I'm interested in, but always keep learning, because what happens is when you find something that you really want to do, you'll be shown a path to get it. Whereas before, like me 2 years ago, I would have never done what I did this June because I would have been too afraid. I would have been just, nope, never mind. We can't do it. It's too hard. But I was like, no, it's going to work out. Everything's going to work out. So I just keep studying, keep filling your brain with beautiful information, because you can do anything you want.
I agree. Definitely. Who taught you that?
Sorry?
Who taught you that? How did you know that?
Totally Bob. Yeah. Bob read Think and Grow Rich every day of his life for 64 years, I think he said.
Wow.
Me, I read something. I read in Think and Grow Rich, there's a faith chapter. I read the faith chapter for 30 days to build my faith in myself. What else is there? I love reading about the laws of the universe. And once you learn the laws, you can actually do whatever you want as long as you're in line with the laws of the universe.
Can you share with us some of the laws?
Yes. Okay. So the law of oneness is we are all one. So the way that I think of it myself is we're all like a giant spider web. We're all connected to the sky. And so this is my best explanation. The law of oneness is when you think a thought, okay, me, I want this house in this color with these many bedrooms and this many bathrooms. It goes up and the universe starts moving its substance around and says, okay, I need you to go here. So that day that I turned right instead of left, that was my intuition from the universe. The universe put the salesperson there, sold us the house, gave the builder the idea, yes, allow this woman to only put $1,000 down because she's good for it, and this is her dream. And then after that, it was just, that's the law of oneness. What you want, everything else moves around to get you what you want. There's the law of attraction, which most people know. However, there is an underlying law of vibration. So everything is energy. So when your thoughts are mostly positive, you have a higher vibration. When your thoughts are mostly negative, which is what I used to be, your vibration is lower, and it actually takes more energy to be in a lower vibration than a higher vibration. So when you think, oh, I want more money, but the money isn't coming to you, it's because you have that lower vibration knowing that I don't have enough. You're thinking of lack instead of abundance.
Wow.
So when you tip the scale to abundance, that's when things start showing up for you. That's when things start changing. The law of perpetual transmutation. Perpetual transmutation is the thoughts into things. So when you think a thought, the thing that you're thinking of goes into your imagination, and then that's how things start getting created for you. What else? The law of cause and effect is a really, really good one. Some people call it karma, but everything we do has a action or a reaction. So that's why it's so important to just be a good person all the time, because you never know what you're going to get back. And always when you put out what you want, or sorry, what you put out is what you get back. Give me a second.
Can you tell us more about the law of abundance? Because I think that that's an issue that a lot of females in this community probably have, as far as struggling when it comes to either material things that they need or just a lack of money in general. So, can you maybe just expand? Because I think that that would be helpful.
So my major problem was, before I did my studying with Bob, is I spent more money than I earned. So my focus was mainly on lack. I was very negative. I had a poor attitude. I thought poorly about money. So I actually went to a webinar one day, and it was incredible. And the woman said, think about money as your best friend. How do you treat money? Do you push it away? Do you not appreciate it? Like, when you think about money, are you grateful to have the money and you're having a party and you're just enjoying it being around? Or are you, oh, I don't have enough, it never comes around? Like, that affects the money and abundance that you're attracting into your life. So how I flipped my scale was, I started thinking about abundance not only on a financial scale. I was like, okay, so I have my health. That's abundance in itself, because I know a lot of people who are sick. Yeah. I have the house that I've always wanted. And this is my second dream home. Like, not one dream home, I've had 2 dream homes. So that's abundance. Like, I live in the house that I love waking up in every day. I love cleaning it. I love doing everything in this house. It's my house. I love it. My kids are going to be raised in this house. They all have their own space. Then cars. Like, a lot of people complain about their cars. Well, I've had my car for 8 years, and honestly, it's the best car I've ever owned. I love my car. It gets me everywhere I want to go in comfort, with air conditioning and a great sound system, and it fits my whole family in it, and it's good on gas. So that's abundance. So you're thinking more abundant thoughts. Like, if you go into a store and you pass things in the store, the best way to tip your scale is, I can buy that, I can buy that, I can buy that, I can buy that, I can buy that. You're not going to buy it all, but you can if you wanted to. So you just have to think, prosperity is not just money. Prosperity is your life, your health, your family, your love, your relationships. It's a whole. That's my belief.
Absolutely. While you were speaking, it kind of made me think of the word success. I want to ask, what does success mean to you?
I love this question. So I believe that success is you doing whatever you want to do. So, for example, I have a couple of stay-at-home mom friends, and they love it. That's what they aspire to do. They are successful women. I have friends who are CEOs and run very successful businesses. They are successful because that is what they want to do. I think that I'm successful because a couple years ago, I was sitting in a chair rocking my baby to sleep, thinking, this is the job that I want. And I got that job. Like, it's amazing. And then I wrote a book. Well, who am I to write a book? I didn't go to school for English and what have you. Well, I have a lot to say, so I wrote the book. That's what I call success. If you're doing what you love to do or what you want to do, that is absolutely success.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I want to take a second to acknowledge those that are listening live. Thank you so much for being here, hanging out with Dana and I while we listen to her story. If you're just now coming upon this area and you are watching us on the replay, I would love it if you hashtag replay so that we can see where you are listening to us at, and then also send you some love. But I want to ask, we've been talking about your book and, the goodness that you're doing in and amongst that arena. So kind of want to learn a little bit more about the book, why you wrote the book, and who you're looking to kind of help and assist with that.
I wrote my book because I have so much life experience. Like, I struggled with anxiety for 17 years. I had depression. I had postpartum depression after my kids. I was on medication. So I thought, you know what? If I could help anybody, just one person, then my life would have purpose to it. So I wrote the book, and it was amazing because the Law of Oneness, I got it in my head, and I wrote my book in 8 hours. So it was 2 sessions of 4 hours each, and it literally just came right through me onto the paper. And I put everything, like all of the good, the bad, the ugly, and I gave everything I could in this book. And I tried to steer people in learning the laws so that way they can create the love that they the life that they love. I also have a chapter in my book on studying. Like, studying is a huge part of everybody's life. Like, people think, oh, I left school, that's it. I'm not going to open up a book ever again. I'm just going to go work. But the way that our bodies are designed is we need to either keep moving forward, we need to learn, or we decline. So when you study, everything gets better. Gratitude. Gratitude is what took me out of so many depressions, because I still struggle with it from time to time. And every time I notice, I'm spiraling down, because when you go up from being down, you can actually spiral down really, really quickly. Ooh. So when you're down there, just sit at a desk with a piece of paper and do gratitude. What am I grateful for? That is one huge thing that my mentor taught me. And I remember one bad point where I called him up and I was like, look, things are not going good. I'm going down really quickly. I need your help. And he was like, just give me a second because you're so negative. So he phoned me back a half an hour later. He says, okay, look. He said, you are not living from the end. You are thinking about all of the worry and anxiety and what could go wrong. He said, you need to do gratitude for at least 3 hours. And I was like, really? He's like, yes. So I did gratitude. And by the end of it, I was literally crying, so thankful for everything in my life, that I got the phone call saying, yep, your mortgage has been approved. So gratitude is so huge. I have a chapter on here because I learned the hard way. It's called Convenience versus Commitment. And I remember the first year I was doing self-development, I was doing it from convenience. I was, okay, I'll listen to this podcast and I'll do this assignment. And it was just like sporadic. I wasn't really going anywhere with it. And then finally, when I got committed, I started studying every morning. I started doing meditation. I call them writing my lines, because honestly, it reminds me of when you're in high school and you're on the blackboard going, I will not throw candy in Jane's hair.
Yes.
It's kind of like that, except it's a positive thing. I am uplifting myself. I am bringing my passion to fruition. I'm living the life that I want to live. And when you're writing it, you're actually like imagining in your head that you're living this life that you're writing down. And that's the secret. The secret to manifestation is feeling you having what you want, because the feeling is your subconscious mind getting to work. I love studying conscious and subconscious mind. Like, I'm a total nerd for that. Yes. But I have all of that in my book. And the last chapter is about beneficials to hiring a coach and mentorship. Like I know they're a dime a dozen nowadays, but when you find the right one, which I was so grateful to find a couple of the right ones, your life changes. Like I don't even know who I was 2 years ago anymore. Yeah. And it, like, not only am I changing myself, my husband is changing with me. My kids are changing. My mom is changing. My family, my cousins' kids, because I get to teach them what I know now, because everybody looks at your success and they're like, how are you doing it? Well, do you really want to know? So I teach them. I send them things to study. I give them books to read. Like that's what I do for Christmas. I give everybody books. Last year I sent everybody Think and Grow Rich.
It's a good book.
It's a great book. My husband reads it almost every day still.
Wow.
He's been doing it for 1.5 years. Yep.
Wow. Fantastic. Mm-hmm. What do you wish for?
I know this sounds tacky, but when I was younger, I used to wish for world peace on my birthday. So I still do. Like, I still wish for world peace. If everybody in this world was grateful, our world would be such a beautiful place all the time.
How long have you been wishing for world peace on your birthday?
Probably since I was 12.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I used to imagine like me being in front of a stage with like a whole bunch of people in front of me and rallying world peace. It's so silly, but I can dream, right?
That's great. Mm-hmm. What's your big aspirations for your book? Are you building a community? What's your goal?
I want to become a New York Times bestseller. That is my C goal. I want to help as many people as possible. I've actually written another book that I'm waiting to publish. And like, I have so many brilliant ideas. Like, I'm so excited for the future for me, because like you even give me ideas too. I'm like, maybe I should write a marriage book. So I'm so excited for the future. I have so many things coming out. My next book is 7 Secrets to Manifest Anything You Want. I want to write a marriage book. I think when my kids are older and I finally get through all of this hardships, I will write a parenting book one day.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I love it. Do you have the book there? Can you show us the book?
I do. This is
Where is it on sale at? Amazon, I assume?
Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon in Europe.
Very nice.
Yeah. So any kind of Amazon you have access to. I'm pretty sure one of my study partners in Switzerland bought one as well.
Ooh, I love that.
It's really cool.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I so appreciate you being here, hanging out with us. This was fantastic. I love it when individuals are understand the mission, understand the mission of, speaking in real time and sharing, sharing all of the things and the steps that they took to move forward in their life. And, just hearing you talk about, the person you were just a few years ago compared to the person you are now is night and day. And, if more people understood the transition and the pivot that happens with individuals who jump into the arena of personal development on, in any level, with anybody, can really jolt us to look at things a little bit differently. And it just takes that little step, just taking that little itty bitty step into it that just broadens, your eyesight. And then you can take another step, and then you can listen to somebody else. And then before you know it, you have this whole array of tools that individuals are giving us to learn how to do things a little bit differently. And I think everybody is drawn to different things and different kinds and different people and different languages and different vibrations. And it's just finding the vibration that works for you, I think, is so important. And I love that you found Bob. And I love that you were seeking out marriage counseling in the beginning. That kind of probably opened your eyes just a little bit, which helped you dig into this whole other world of, Think and Grow Rich and Bob. So any closing thoughts that you want to say before we wrap things up here? This has been great.
Do what you want to do. Just take the risk. Go for it. I found that no matter what kind of resistance you have towards anything you want to do, the universe is always going to work around it and give you what you want, and have total faith in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Follow your dream.
Resistance you have.
Okay, so that's a totally different conversation. But the resistance you have is your beliefs. So your belief system, things that we were raised with, taught by our parents, our family, our friends, our teachers. The universe will work around all of your beliefs. So if you think, oh, I can't do it, the universe is like, okay, well, you think you can do this, so I'm going to push you this way. And that's how it's provided. Yeah. I think of it as like one of those pinball games. It goes all the way around all your beliefs and struggles and pain points, and make sure you get what you want the way that you will accept it.
Yeah, the way that you'll accept it.
Yeah,
I agree with that, definitely. Well, this has been great. I so appreciate you taking some time out of your day to sit down and chat with me. I'd love to have you on stage again at some point in the future. For those of you that are listening live and hanging out with us, thank you so much for being here. For those of you watching on the replay, again, make sure you hashtag a replay so that we know that you were here and hanging out. If you resonated with Dana and all the goodness that she was sharing today, make sure that you connect with her on her Instagram. She also has links in the description that you can click on, and check out her book on Amazon. Thank you for joining us today on Her Version. This community is expanding every single day and is filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share of struggle to triumph, be sure to reach out to me here or at herversion.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others.